Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, entitled coworker tries to schedule meetings outside of contract time and criticizes my non-work plans. Karen had our charity for kids with cancer thrown out of an public area because it was an eyesore. We had permission to be there. Entitled neighbor starts feeding our cats that had got out of our house, accuses us of dumping them. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled coworker tries to schedule meetings outside of contract time and criticizes my non-work plans. I have a coworker who is really disorganized and waits until the last minute to schedule things, and so that frequently means calling a meeting at 4 o'clock on a Friday. For reference, my 8-hour workday ends at 3 o'clock, so these meetings make for 10-hour-plus days, and because the coworker is so disorganized and unprepared, we frequently have to cover things that they should have done ahead of time, like creating an agenda or desired outcome, at the actual meeting. Because these are required meetings, usually only once or twice a month, I have to go to them no matter when they're scheduled, and get extended pay for working overtime, but my coworker is supposed to give at least a week's notice, and I'd definitely rather have the free time than the money. Typically, if I don't hear by Thursday afternoon that they have scheduled the meeting for 4 o'clock on a Friday, I make other weekend plans, like hiking or bicycling or going out somewhere. Yesterday, Friday, the coworker attempted to schedule the meeting at 4:45, but didn't put it on my calendar until 3:05. I should have been off by then, but I had an end-of-day meeting that went over by a few minutes, so I was doing a last check of email and then shutting things down for the weekend. I saw the meeting request and responded that that wasn't enough notice for a meeting that far outside the workday, and that I normally would not have even seen the notice until the following Monday, and CC'd my boss just so they knew I wasn't trying to shirk any duties. Of course, coworker is upset because they're required to hold the meeting by law and it's the absolute last day to do it without filing an extension, which they've been told by my boss they're not allowed to do unless there's extenuating circumstances, and they've known about it for 2 months, they just didn't plan for it. My boss calls at 3:10 saying, "Can you please do this now and end at 4:10 and we will address it on Monday?" Fine. I was planning on leaving town, but I can leave a little bit later. Coworker responds to my boss by email and says they're using personal time between 3:10 and 4:45, so they can't hold the meeting until then, and that nothing I'm doing could possibly be important enough that I can't attend the meeting at 4:45. Boss calls coworker confessed that their child's birthday party is at 6 that evening and that they have to go try to find a cake and party supplies for the party before the meeting, which is why they can't be available. Boss gets annoyed and says that boss and I, will do the meeting now and coworker will have to answer for it on Monday. Boss and I hold meeting, it takes 20 minutes, I'm out of there by 3:45. Coworker sends me a nasty gram by text at 10:15 p.m. saying it's my fault they're in trouble and that they have a child, so I should understand that people with children come first, and that my activities/hobbies are pathetic and it wouldn't have been that hard for me to just attend the meeting they scheduled, and that they'll have to go back and fix everything my boss and I did incorrectly because they like to do it a specific way. My boss had already submitted it. I responded that I hope they enjoyed their child's birthday party and to have a good weekend. They respond that they forgot to invite people so no one came, and thanks for rubbing that in their face. If there was ever a time for the phrase "lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part," this was it. Sheesh face with rolling eyes. So true. My boss even said that. Prior preparation prevents piss-poor performance. You should 100% screenshot that and send it to your boss. They forgot to invite people for their kids' party. That's why no one showed. Hilarious. I just feel bad for the kid. The entitled coworker, I don't feel bad for. Who the hell doesn't give anyone a heads up a week or two before? With meetings a week before so it can be filtered into the schedule, but dropping a meeting just when OP needs to go, just screams disorganized and unable to work. This reminds me of a coworker I had once that would remember after hours that a meeting was needed the next day, and would log in and schedule it the only time they could find, before I got to work. Then get mad I didn't show for the meeting. I used to tell them, I didn't even know there was a meeting. I can't go to a meeting I'm unaware of. That has happened a few times to me as well. I feel bad for the kid. Last minute birthday party, and so last minute the parent didn't even invite anyone with enough advance notice that the kid could have friends show up. Time for management to add some performance standards for your coworker. Things like 1. No meetings may be scheduled outside of the scheduled hours worked by required attendees. 2. Compliance mandated meetings must be scheduled a minimum of 3 workdays prior to the meeting. 3. Absolutely no meetings will be scheduled during required attendees' PTO time. Failure to adhere to these standards is an actionable offense, which may result in disciplinary action impacting performance reviews, raises, and/or employment with the company. Good grief. Poor kid for having this parent. I've fired people for less, and I think that your boss might just be doing that Monday. If not, he'll write up an established pattern so the next time he does it, which I think he'll do, it's strike 2. Maybe that is enough, otherwise strike 3 will follow soon and it's done. People like this are narcissists that don't usually better themselves for the simple reason they don't believe they're wrong and that everyone around him should accommodate him. I've seen it happen up close more than once. Karen had our charity for kids with cancer thrown out of an public area because it was an eyesore. We had permission to be there. I can't believe a woman like this exists. She was such a terrible person. Not only did she single-handedly tank the event, but she threw a tantrum in regard to a licensed 501c3 charity foundation that helps out sick and terminal children. Here it goes. So, I am currently working for a firm that helps dedicate and connect people with esoteric knowledge for nonprofit, 501c3, foundations. I primarily work with donors, as I have a lot of experience with owning my own nonprofit and also tech startups, so working with large and small donors is my forte. The foundation I was assigned to oversee as it pertains to having a presence in LA is a charity that helps with children. We are partnered with Make-A-Wish, but this specific foundation not only helps kids who are terminal/cancer, but helps kids who are in long-term, hospitalized care, regardless of their disease/ailments. What I personally love about this foundation is that it focuses on relieving the financial burdens the families undertake: utility bills, house bills, car bills, anything we can do to help keep the proverbial lights on at home. Pretty cool, right? So I'm hosting a huge event in a place called Playa del Rey. It's a beachside town in LA that mainly caters to families and people who work in Silicon Beach. We also get a lot of neighboring families from Marina del Rey and Manhattan Beach. All are relatively more affluent areas of LA and thus require a lot more finesse when it comes to handling donors. The place we set up was scheduled, and the logistics were handled way in advance with security, so everything was supposed to be pretty frictionless execution-wise. It was a large area filled with high-end boutiques, shopping, restaurants, a Whole Foods, etc. Really lovely area on a very lovely day. So the day starts out really quickly. Large donors are present, and everyone is super involved. People are very interested, and everyone is doubling down on this event. In essence, it's going really well. Then, a Karen arrives. And not just any Karen, we are actually specifically trained on how to handle these kinds of people. And to be fair, there are scummy people out there who pretend to represent charities to scam people out of their support, time, and money. So I see this woman approach the event. In the corner of my eye, she is the quintessential Karen. She's a 40-something, petite, blonde woman with overly highlighted shoulder-length hair, large sunglasses, a dog in tow. The dog is actually matching her outfit. It's dyed in various colors with leopard spots, which matches her athleisure yoga leopard leggings. Yikes. So she approaches the event and starts feigning interest. I entertain her, explain why we are here, what we do, and how only if she is interested, if she wants to get involved. She suddenly yanks out her phone and started filming and taking photos of the event. Not in a good way, in that sketchy, I'm going to try and F**k you guys over way. She then starts to pry into the background of the charity. That's fine. I have her look at all the legal information, us on Charity Navigator, our licenses, you name it. She then starts hailing accusations, saying she works with security in the area and she is determined to get us pulled out of the area. I'm going to grab coffee, but I'll be back. She turns around and races off to the nearest Starbucks. I pull aside some of my colleagues and explain the situation. Why this woman had decided to march up and accuse a charity that has every right to be here that they are not important and fake is beyond me. It doesn't affect her in any way. She comes back 10 minutes later. Raging, she starts to scream at us, telling us about how important she is in this community and how we need to leave. She doesn't care about what we are here for, she doesn't care about the cause, she doesn't like the eyesore. It's a charity. It's for children. She is literally stealing from children and their families. The even was not smack in the middle of RHE area. It was on the side, and it wasn't like we were yanking people from their errands and forcing them to participate. This is a voluntary event. So she returns, and starts becoming very hostile. She then starts accusing us of ruining the atmosphere of the area, and continues her pontificating how important she is and how dare we violate her sacred space. After what seemed like forever, we calmed her down and she started calling security. Security came, we explained the situation, but the damage was done. Surprisingly, rather than deal with her, they figured it would be less of a hassle to have us leave. That what was so upsetting, she was such a menace that rather security deal with her appropriately, they made EUs leave, because it's easier than dealing with a raging madwoman. We packed up, and ended the event for the day. She was so proud of herself when she watched us leave, she even smirked and waved us goodbye. She was such a terrible person. Not only did she single-handedly tank the event, but she threw a tantrum in regard to a licensed 501c3 charity foundation that helps out sick and terminal children. She stole our time and energy, but more importantly, she robbed needy children life-saving support and care. All because she wanted to be and sound important, exercise a sense of power, entitlement, and gatekeep a public area. She wanted to be a martyr, except her cause was to ruin a real-life, charitable cause. I wish her nothing but the best and a long and truly miserable life. She seems like she is well on her way. WFT? I would be suggesting the company lawyers talk to the organizers and security company. If they couldn't throw her out, the cops should have been called and drag her off. Suggestion: take this post, edited down to the word limit of letters to the editor in each of your local papers. Name and shame if possible, both the harridan and those who wimped out and cancelled your event instead of putting the she-monster in her place. Consult the lawyers for your organization, to make sure it won't cause legal problems, make any changes they suggest. Then send it in. If the lawyers nix it or the papers decline to publish it, at least notify your donors about what happened and why it happened. Contact the authorities who gave you permission and let them know what happened, if you haven't already. Make absolutely certain that if this unspeakable wretch sticks her nose in again next time, she will get the boot immediately and with extreme prejudice. When she escalated, your first and only call should have been the police. I feel like someone could have called the police for the children being made such a big deal of. WTH? Ye organized the security of the event ye had every right to have and security throws ye out? I would be having a massive conversation with the security company, and if ye paid for the service, I would be requesting the money back and let them go after nasty Karen for the money. I would also post a picture of this woman on social media so other organizations who are doing amazing work are aware of her and make sure to call the cops if they see her coming and starting anything. This woman needs to be held accountable for her actions and behavior. I'm absolutely fuming at this horrible person. Was this at the Runway Mall in Playa Vista? If you took any videos, you should send it to local news along with this post. It absolutely was, I can tell from the details. I was there 3 weeks ago and I saw the matching dog, who was very startling with the fake leopard spots. What a crazy person. If you had the legal right to be there, why did you leave? The woman sounds awful, but if your group had the right to be there, I don't understand why the group packed up and left. Entitled neighbor starts feeding our cats that had got out of our house, accuses us of dumping them. Hi, this may be long and I'm not 100% sure what to do right now. Around a year ago, our cat Luke got out of our house and we've been trying to get him back. Using traps, food, etc., and a woman down the street started feeding him and taking him in, which then he wasn't able to come back. Tonight she sent my mom a nasty message about how she has to come get her cat that they spent $1,000 on and how we dumped him outside wasn't the case. So, my stepdad and I go over to grab him and we do. We see another cat there that was feral. A few years ago we took him in and got him fixed, but because he was feral he was not a good fit indoors. We have a cat colony on our street and thought he would fit in there. As we were walking home with Luke, two women come out and start yelling at us to take the other cat. I go up and do it and he runs away from me, because he's feral. They keep making nasty comments towards me and my family and I eventually say if you didn't want to take him in, you shouldn't have started feeding him in the first place. That set them off and they start cursing at me, name-calling, making comments towards me cause I'm visibly queer, etc. One of them yells at me to get off her property while the other is just shouting at me and I get a bit confused and just stand there for a bit until I eventually call one of them a nasty name, not the smartest move on my part, but I was extremely pissed, and she attempts to attack me, but the other woman holds her back. At this point I leave and they scream at me and while they do, Luke gets scared and jumps out of my stepdad's arms. They continue to shout until I get home. I'm at a loss. These people were extremely aggressive towards me, even if we were in the wrong. If I was wrong and my family is wrong, I can admit that. But I just don't know what to do. We have a 10-year-old orange tabby, called Tommy Cat. He is a small cat and has no fear. We have a dog door and Tommy caught on pretty quick and we no longer needed a cat box. He would also disappear. It was a day, then maybe 3, then it just became normal to not see him for a week. He had a collar and tag. He was obviously eating somewhere and eventually would return. Then he didn't. After 2 weeks we were knocking on doors, hanging up flyers, and weeks passed. Nothing. 8 weeks later, I get a call about Tommy. They said they knew where he was and he needed a vet. They are a block from my house. Tommy was a mess and we headed for the vet. Story was, Tommy had taken to eating at their house and they took him inside to stay. He still had his collar with my tag. There was a Tommy missing poster on their power pole. They kept my cat until he needed a vet and they didn't want to pay for that. They tried to steal my cat. Tommy lost partial sight in one eye and now stays closer to home. We see him daily now. Why weren't you able to get your cat back for a year if it was going into the neighbor's house? Not sure of the full story there. I don't think my mom knew for a while that a neighbor took him in, and when she found out the neighbor, gave her shit about getting him back. So pleased that you have your cat back. I hope you can get him back to full health. Let them swing, then make them swallow their teeth. Screenshot all the messages and from now on, video everything that they do or say to you. You might be able to get a restraining order. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.